Hi everyone, this is going to be a short video on upgrading the head unit in my Discovery 2. When I got the car, this is the unit it had in it. Standard Land Rover factory one, Highline unit, which has CD changer and tape, but really it was 2015, who uses tape? It also has 9 speakers, which will become important later. Shortly after buying it, the CD changer packed up. I still don't know what's inside it. So I bought this unit to replace the CD changer entirely. This is a Grom unit and the cable on the left connects to the CD changer port on the stereo. You can then connect an Android phone via the USB and use the steering wheel controls via an app, which I didn't get on with very well. So what I did instead is get an adapter for a 3.5mm jack, and that worked fine for a while. But it was always awkward trying to set up the phone beforehand, and you can't touch the phone, and I'm sure it drained the battery. So I started looking for other options. Whatever I replaced it with had to have Apple Carplay, a nice screen, and had to be compatible with the steering wheel controls. I made a short list of 3 head units, and these are the ones. And yes, I did make cardboard cutouts of them. First up was the Pioneer AVH 3300 NEX, which seems the most appropriate with its flip out screen. It just fits straight into the single DIN. However, it's 2019 now, and this just seems out of date. I mean, didn't these things come out in 2001 or something? So on to the next unit, which is the Alpine ILX F309, or the Halo 9, which is a huge unit that just fits into a single DIN. Again, it fits quite well, but it's massive, and I thought it would be nicked in no time at all. Not to mention that it covers up the vents. The final contender was the Alpine ILX 702D, which as you can see fits quite nicely in this space. It's another single DIN unit with the screen sticking up just slightly above it, and I thought it was perfect for this. So onto this big bundle of cables. Though this will make sense later on, I promise you. First thing to do was get this Connects 2 box, which allows me to use the standard steering wheel controls with the Alpine head unit. Then with this bundle of spaghetti, I was finally able to get something working. Okay, so onto the mounting. This is where it gets complicated. Alpine want you to use brackets like the one shown here that come with a fitting kit for your car. Obviously there isn't one for the Discovery. So this is the original factory radio cage, and as you can see at the back there are some holes which screws pass through to attach the cage to the head unit and keep it in place. To get the head unit with its screen to sit back in the normal position, I had to cut the top rail of the console here and add this 3D printed part for support. In case you haven't spotted it yet, that means that this thing is completely locked to the console. As soon as it's installed, you can't get it out. You have to take the entire console out. It takes about half an hour, but it should mean extra security. This is what it looks like when it's installed. You can see how far back from the front edge it now sits. This is a cap I made on the 3D printer. You can see it has magnets that attract to the steel body of the screen, and this is what that looks like when it's installed. This is what the complete setup looks like. I originally wanted to drop the whole thing down, but there's a bracket in the way, so I couldn't. I had to settle for keeping it in the original place and adding a 3D printed filler piece below it. Back to the cables then. And earlier on you probably didn't see these cables or these little modules. These are because as soon as I installed the unit I had issues with it being far too loud. I didn't actually realise that the Discovery 2 has an amplifier under the passenger seat until this point. These little modules convert the pre-out signals from the head unit, which are the green cables, to the highline signals that go to the amplifier, or would normally go to the speakers. This didn't work either, it was far too quiet. So I decided to make my own attenuator circuits, using my plentiful supply of disposable resistors. These are the little circuit boards, one for each channel, and they just have a couple of resistors. Quarter watt resistors are fine. I've had them in there for a while and they haven't exploded yet. These sit in line with the cables going from the head unit to the amplifier and drop the volume by about 10 decibels. You can then fine tune the source volume on the head unit itself. Finally, I wanted somewhere different to put the phone rather than mounting on the windscreen, so I came up with this design for a tray that fits inside the Discovery cubby box. I printed it as 2 separate parts just because my printer isn't big enough to fit both of them on there, and this is how they sit in the cubby box. It's a nice fit really. I used one of these magnetic connectors for my phone so I could integrate this into the design. I came up with a few prototypes, finally came up with something that fitted nicely. The whole thing was then DIY flocked, which was a bit of a disaster, but it's okay, it's functional. You'll also see that I've added a couple of little finger holes to be able to pick the phone up. So after a lot of messing around, it was finally installed and wired up, and I had somewhere to put the phone. But the first time I used it, it didn't seem to react to the dark and light conditions as I expected it to. So this is a test I did, using waves to actually make sure that the thing does react as it should do to dark and light. The light sensor is located in the bottom right hand corner, and as you can see, it really does work. That's all I have to tell really. I now have a working Apple Carplay head unit in my Discovery, which works with the steering wheel controls, and I have a nice convenient place to put my phone, which is fantastic. I hope this was useful or at least interesting to somebody.